Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here. I have the usual panelists on the show once again. We have one missing, and that's Bob Camara. Apparently he doesn't feel good, so he's not here today. And we have Dan Robillard. He's going to be, he's home. He's calling in. He's going to be on the telephone. So he'll be participating in the show. And of course we have the staunch standby, not a standby, a participant, and that's CJ Ferry. And we're going to find out what he's up to now. I mean, if you've followed CJ over the years, you'll know that CJ never sleeps. And
what's that?
Of course, his name now is Jack Anderson. You can recall Jack Anderson was a very notorious, and I mean that not in a bad sense, journalist long ago. And he dug up a lot of stories that people were very interested in and never believed some of the things that were going on in Washington. So anyway, CJ, welcome.
Always a pleasure to be here. Although I'm not feeling that great today either. So.
How come?
The weather's terrible, and people are just getting the cold
and 50s.
I know. Well, that's the problem. It's then it goes down to 30, and today it's we're taping on Wednesday, by the way, so it's starting to rain out there, and it's windy as all heck, and
50 degrees.
Bob has a cold sinus.
February,
I started with the scratchy throat.
February 3rd, 2016.
I know, it's great weather, isn't it?
50 degrees out.
Great weather, isn't it? But remember,
when are we going to get the winter?
Well, remember,
a lot of people miss winters.
Oh, I know they do.
I like winters.
Yeah, well, I'll ship them to Alaska and to the Arctic, so they'll be fine.
Well, let's get to the one of the top.
Well, you got somebody on the in the cloud over there.
Yeah, well, I already introduced him.
He hasn't said anything.
Richard, nice to be here.
There he is.
We're ready to fire.
Ready to fire? God, that's dangerous.
Dan, I know he's always there. Okay, we're going to start off with something that just came across my desk, so to speak. An interesting topic, issue, and it just was brought to my attention by CJ. And that is not an override, as you might have heard, that's been whispered and talked about, maybe even loudly, in regards to the taxes in the city of Fall River. I don't know, will there be an override? Maybe not, but we're going to be talking about an underride.
Yeah, well,
that's an amazing term, an underride. And is that how it's phrased?
That is exactly how it's phrased in Mass General Law.
And
when we passed,
when you say Mass General Law, do you have a?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I did quote it in the petition.
So in other words, if someone were to
look this up, they can read it.
In other words, if someone were to put this in underride in the Mass General Laws,
it is there. It's governed under the Prop 2.5 limits that were passed by the voters, and under the Prop 2.5 provisions, a city or town can override the 2.5 collection.
2.5 is the top.
That's the top levy.
2.5%.
2.5%.
So in other words, whatever the tax is in a city or municipality, whatever you might want to call it, they can only raise taxes 2.5% overall.
Over last year's levies, correct.
Oh, all right.
Now, an override of that means the city can raise any amount of money they want that they have to put before the voters. But built into the provisions of 2.5 is what's called an underride. And it says that any city or town may also underride the provisions. There are a couple of caveats in it. One of the caveats is that once you pass an underride, it's in effect in perpetuity, which means they can't get rid of it. You actually have to have a vote to rescind it. And with the commentary today by City Council President Sean Kadim, the bond king, who said that he's going to meet shortfalls with leveraging bonding in Fall River. Leveraging bonding.
What does that mean?
That means we're going to bond for other things and throw in a little extra money on top, probably.
Yeah, we're going to bond and put ourselves in in as far out debt as the eye can see.
Right.
And once again, piggyback off the state rating to save ourselves from receivership.
Right. And the problem is that we see this, and they already know that there's going to be about a $6 to $7 million shortfall in next year's budget, if not more. You have the boy emperor, Mayor Correa, turning around saying that he wants to do away with the sanitation fee, the $10 a month fee. Okay, not a problem. We'll do away with it. But that's approximately $3 million budgeted. That's what they budgeted for that, 3.8 or something like that for sanitation, because with that and the pay-as-you-throw fee, it was supposed to self-fund trash hauling.
It hasn't.
And it hasn't, because nobody's paying it.
It's not coming in.
Right. So if we get away with it.
Is this the idea of the
Here's what
override?
happened. Well, this is why Sean Kadim says, we're not saying we're going to do it, but we have to look at the possibility of having to ask for an override. Well, you know what? The moment you threw that out there, Mr. Kadim, whether it's what you meant, it's what you said. And the problem is that the taxpayers in Fall River cannot afford to come up with another dollar in taxes and fees for this city. And of course, he said, and if we don't get that, we're going to have to cut. And we always know what cut means. Cut means we get rid of police, we get rid of fire. We never get rid of administrators. We never get rid of department heads. We never get rid of assistant department heads. Okay, why? Because those are political hack jobs.
All right, let's
So,
get to this.
let me finish this now. So, he wants to talk about that. So we will talk about the underride. So I proposed that we do a $7.5 million underride.
Now, what do you get this from the Mass General laws?
Yes.
Only?
No. Well, the law governs what we can do, and the charter governs how we can do it. Because for us to have an underride,
Okay, so
you have to have built into your city charter or town charter the right to do what's called an initiative petition.
All right, so the mechanism is in the charter?
The initiative petition mechanism is in the charter.
All right, and the law, of course, is the state law.
Exactly, and that's how we're doing it. We're going to use the initiative
All right,
petition
when you say
in the
how
charter.
you're doing it, have you started the process?
I drew up the requests, and I say request plural because there's two ways to get this done. Because what's the first thing that the city council and the mayor will say? If you cut our budget, we have to cut police and fire.
When you say you did the request, have you drawn up a
Paperwork has been drawn up.
Okay,
It was presented to the city clerk.
Is this a petition in the form
It is
of a
actually, it looks just like nomination papers. And as a matter of fact,
It has a heading. And
it has the heading. It looks
a
exactly the
paragraph.
same.
All right.
And it's got the city seal up in the corner.
I understand. Okay, you made this up yourself.
I drew it all up, yes.
Okay, so, and I understand that there needs to be 3 signatures supposedly at the top. You're going to be one of the signatories.
The 3 people who are proposing this question to the voters.
Dan, you're out there. Dan, I understand you're in on this too?
I'm in on what? The underride, Richard? I would certainly look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, are you going to be one of the persons to sign it? Along with...
We've talked about a number of underrides, so like I say, certainly there's many things we need to get rid of, not the least of which is including the Community Preservation Act. I'd like to see staffing levels for the fire department created in ordinance and in charter, and take them out of the political realm.
And I did that in the second petition that will go with the underwrite
All right,
petition.
let's get back to the mechanics, because this is interesting.
Yep.
Now, okay, so you did the petition, and
I presented it to the city clerk,
You
and I
did?
presented it to elections. They looked at them. They said they
And they
look
said-
appropriate.
the language is
The
fine.
language is
Let me-
according to the state
Do
law.
you have to go to the Secretary of State with this?
I called the Secretary of State, and they said that it is governed by your charter.
All right.
It is not a state issue, it is a local issue.
All right, so they don't have to approve
Right.
the language. Now, you're going to go out and collect signatures. How many signatures will you need?
15% of the voters, which is approximately 7,000 voters to have a little extra.
Which is the same percentage of voters needed when I was involved, along with Chip Camara and others, in challenging Bob Correa when he attempted to take the fire chief position out of civil service.
Correct. And once you get the 15%, it automatically, not an option, it automatically goes to ballot. There are two outs to it. One is the 3 petitioners remove the request, or the city council passes the question the way it is written, no alteration, immediately, in which case it doesn't go to ballot. But we know better, because an underride they're not going to do.
Whoa, that's political suicide.
For them
I
it
should
is.
say.
For them it is. But to get this underride approved, and this is where politics comes in, we had to put something in there which protects our public safety. So I have a second initiative petition, which will go on the same ballot. And that one says that the city of Fall River must, not shall,
Now,
not should.
Let me ask you this now. You got a second petition. Do you need 7,000 signatures for that second petition?
Right, and what you do is you just put them back to back, so people are signing both of them at the same time.
Okay.
And
Let me ask you this now. I mean, because it's interesting to the people. How much time do you need to gather
there
this?
is no time.
Well, okay, let me say this now. Or ask this, I should say. Can you give yourself a year or 2 years?
Look at what they took for the charter.
Okay. All right. So,
And in ordinance, in our charter, there is no provision for time. And as a matter of fact, the petition is not filed until one of the 3 petitioners authorizes filing. Now, the second petition I was talking about is about public safety. And we put in there that the city must staff the Fall River Fire Department according to NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association standards. That's it. That's the entire ordinance. That doesn't give them an option. They can no longer say, well, we have to cut, so we're going to have to cut firefighters. Guess what? You can't. That means if there's supposed to be 4 firefighters on an engine, there's 4 firefighters on an engine. If there's 3 trucks, there's 3 trucks.
Well, what about-
And none of this crap anymore.
what about people who work in the police department? Maybe they wouldn't like this.
If the police department comes forward at the same time and says, this is the standards that the police department is supposed to follow.
Suppose the DPW comes forward and says,
The DPW is never thrown into the political hash, okay? It's always police and fire. Why? Because everyone wants to be protected on the fire side, and they want to be protected on the crime side. And if you put these in with this, they will all go to ballot. Now,
you must know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is because unless this allows for protection of other departments, people will be reluctant to sign.
well, then the other departments can get their own petition together and get it out there. I have to look out for the best interests of the people. The people are the people of Fall River. They're not political hacks. They're not people who have governmental jobs. The city of Fall River is not an employment agency. Okay? If my house burns down, that affects my safety. If your house burns down, it affects your safety. And in some cases, it can affect the whole neighborhood.
Okay, Dan, you've been following this. Apparently, you're going to be a participant.
Richard, this is something that's been in the works for a while, and CJ is correct. It took a long time to get the charter signatures done, so this is not something that I think is going to be done overnight, but it's certainly worth a look. And you know, the ideas expressed by the council president are very concerning to me. In fact, Sean Kadim's leadership style as council president, 2 meetings in, I have a problem with
Okay.
as a citizen.
All right, in what respect, Dan?
What respect?
Yeah.
He's more interested in reminding somebody when they have 15 seconds of citizen input remaining than he is allowing councilors to finish their dialogue. This is not a good start for this council in a number of ways, 2 meetings in.
Okay.
And already, as Joe Macy let them know, they have multiple complaints for violations of Mass General Law. They violate Mass General Law 30A on a regular basis, which is the open meeting law, and they don't care. And then when they get the complaint on the agenda, only because it had to be on the agenda because nobody was going to put it on
All
there.
right, when you say open meeting law, what are they doing to violate?
An
the,
open meeting law says that all meetings of the council, of any public body, must be open to the public. The agendas must be out 48 hours prior to the meeting, excluding holidays and weekends. So if your meeting's on Tuesday and you put the agenda out on Monday before a Monday holiday, guess what? It doesn't meet the requirement.
Okay, and that's what the,
Well, that's one of them. Also, you cannot deliberate. So you can't get 6 city councilors together in a room and talk about, do we want to talk about, do we want to get this ordinance approved? That's deliberation,
Yeah.
and that's not an open.
okay.
And they've already got multiple complaints against them, including the day they got the complaint and they had it on the agenda, they said, receive the complaint and place on file. The law doesn't let them receive the complaint and
Well,
place
what's the
on file.
recourse if they do, if they
Well,
don't?
what ends up happening is, you know,
Let me ask you a question. They violate the law, and they get a complaint, they ignore the complaint, and they continue doing, you know, making these violations. What is the recourse for the person that makes the complaint?
Well, what happens is that you file a complaint, they have to answer the complaint after the first session.
Well, apparently
Of the
they
body.
did. They said, we're going to put it on file. That's their answer.
Well, no, their answer actually was issued before it went to the open session, which is a violation of the law. They can't answer it until they have the meeting. And it can't be turned over to the AG until 30 days after the complaint has been filed. These complaints all made it to the AG's office within 2 weeks because they just willfully and blatantly violated the law.
Okay, let's move on a bit here. And Dan, this is, I think, your forte. You ran for the school committee a few times. Net school spending. What does net school spending mean? I mean, it's
That net school spending is the foundation budget plus all the in-kind services that the city provides that can be charged off against per pupil spending. That's about the simplest way I can describe it. Maybe CJ has a better definition. And the net school spending number is determined by the state and by state statute.
All
So
right.
it's really out of the district's hands. The number is set, and the school district is required to meet that number.
Well-
And Florida historically has had difficulty. They've played games meeting this number. They've made it in payments. They've carried percentages of the number over from one fiscal year to the next. And this is, again, what we're seeing. And remember, folks, Meg Mayo Brown is out of here in June.
And the thing about the net school spending is, this year, we are 1.5, according to the state, $1.5 million short. But we have a 2.2, and I'm going to use the new term of the week from the city, aggregate, $2.2 million aggregate shortfall.
That's total.
Total. So what happens is,
That's in our language. That means
yeah,
total.
Total. So what happens is, if the city meets the 5% threshold of not meeting net school spending, their Chapter 70 money, which is what the state pays towards education, gets cut. Now, for fiscal year 2017, the foundation budget is projected to be $133.3 million. Based upon current Chapter 70 contributions or payments, the state will pay $107.1 million, which means the city has to come up with $32.2 million for the school department. And we can't do that.
Okay.
And we weren't able to do it this year.
And
And,
then
here's the thing. The reason why we get into this net school spending argument every year, DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, has already listed on paper, in printouts, what qualifies and what doesn't. And every year, the city administration, the school committee goes, but no, we need this to be covered. No, it's not covered. This is what's covered.
All right, so-
and it's already set forth, but they still want to fight it.
It's really set already by law. how much they have to spend and what they have to spend it on.
Exactly.
But they do have these problems, and I guess the problem that they're having now is, well, they use a fancy term. They use the methodology
Yes.
of, instead of saying the method, of course, now they
Right.
come up with these highfalutin words like methodology. I can go on all day with this.
But you know,
anyway,
but
so
the thing is,
the school department is saying, no, you've done it differently than we have done it, and the city is saying that, and vice versa, and that seems to be the contention of the two parties at this time, even though, you know...
Well, there's always a contention, too, between the two sides over what can be charged to the city side versus the school side.
And that's what...
The last couple of years, there's been infighting between the city and the school department.
Right, and that's why we lost the school crossing guards at the beginning of the year. They didn't want to pay for them. And then Mayor Sutter said, okay, we'll pay for them on the city side.
Then, of course, the year before that, they, and I forget exactly how they did it, but there was a big debacle with transportation.
Right.
To the tune of like $8 million, as I recall.
So is there any solution, a simple solution? There seems to be, but why can't they reach it? Is there a simple
There is
solution?
a real simple solution.
Okay, Dan, give it to us.
An entire fiscal forensic audit of the entire city of Fall River.
An FFA.
All right, trash. Get the,
Not even going to go there.
what's that?
Not even going to go there.
We got the apartment fee
Which the mayor says he's going to get rid of in the next budget.
and pay as you throw, the bags. And those two amounts do not equal the amount of money that DPW needs. Is that correct?
Well, actually, they were supposed to. They were budgeted to, but
their collections are much lower.
They
And I
were
mean, let's-
budgeted, but well, they've had projected budgets that have been completely and utterly misguided since Will Flanagan put the bags in. Okay? Fall River's pay-as-you-throw system, its current trash collection system, coupled with the household fee, is an unmitigated human disaster.
And in my opinion, it's a tax. And the kicker on all of this is that if the boy emperor is going to remove the sanitation fee, that's fine. Let him remove the sanitation fee.
When you say sanitation fee,
That's the $10 a month fee.
The apartment.
That's right. How is he going to replace that revenue stream? If you're already looking at between a $6 and $15 million shortfall in the 2017 budget, and you're going to take another $3 million and throw it out the window, how are you going to make up 9 to 18?
Well, let me ask you this question. These two fees are part of the DPW stabilization fund.
No, they're actually part of the enterprise fund.
Oh, okay, the enterprise
Yep.
fund. Okay. And they're short right there already.
Correct.
Now, how are they going to make that up, that single department deficit?
Magic money.
And where's the magic money going to come from?
We don't know where it comes from.
We just brought in Mary Sahadi to be the queen savior of Fall River's financial misnomers.
Now, she's the new treasurer.
No.
well,
She is the CPA consultant.
Oh, okay, so the treasurer has been fired.
Correct.
And no one...
The assistant treasurer is assuming that position, but not in ordinance. Rather, she was given a $7,500 permanent salary increase. So in my mind, that leaves the door open down the road for the administration to hire another bloated position of treasurer.
All right, so how does the deficit get made up? Any
It's
idea?
not going to get made up. It's going to expand.
And of course,
Our bond rating
the
has
mayor...
been downgraded, Richard. We're in big trouble. I predict if we stay on the current fiscal path, within 5 years, the city of Fall River will be in receivership.
Now, the mayor said that he would do away with pay-as-you-throw.
No,
No, the apartment fee?
the apartment fee.
Now, he likes the bags.
Yeah, Jason loves the bags.
He likes the bags.
Yeah, I think he looks good in purple. I don't know.
But the bags are not bringing in the revenue, supposedly.
No, because nobody's using them. Drive down any street during collection day. You see black bags, white bags, red bags. You don't see purple bags.
So how is this this proposal to remove? He did say that during the campaign too.
Well, everything he said so far during the campaign, he lied about.
So the apartment fee, he said he's going to remove it, but obviously it would be very detrimental to the department because, of course, there's already a deficit, right, Dan?
Well, but there's a shortfall either way. I don't know if you can do this, Richard, okay? But trash should go back on the taxes the way it was before pay-as-you-throw.
I think that makes the best sense. You know, when he come out with this stormwater fee, Bob Correa voted out. You got Flanagan, pay-as-you-throw. He comes out with that thing. Nobody could understand it. Nobody complied with it. And still, today, no one complies with it. He got voted out. Sam Sutter comes on with the apartment fee. That really, that really stirred up people in the coffee shops because that gave them a lot to talk about.
You've had three mayors, each of which has had a major policy that has booted them out of office.
Major failed policy.
Correct. And look, I think that Mayor Correa realizes, and he spoke really against it in the campaign, about the $10 fee and how ill-advised he thought it was. I think he's realizing very quickly that if he doesn't abolish this $10 fee as soon as possible, he could have a great deal of difficulty getting reelected.
Well,
not only for this, but
okay,
for other reasons as well.
We're running out of time, but I just want to make this one more observation. Mayor Flanagan was explaining a few days ago his decision not to remove the stormwater fee that he campaigned for very strenuously that he would remove, and people really felt that, well, they would vote for him because of that. And then he says, well, the reason he couldn't remove it is because he realized when he became mayor that it was almost impossible to remove it because the revenue was needed by the city. So in other words, while he was campaigning, he said he would remove it, but he didn't study the issue that well because when he became mayor, now are we going to have the same problem with this?
Yes.
In other words, I thought it could be removed, but I didn't study it, but I was talking about it and campaigned on it.
This kid has done every single thing that Will Flanagan did in his terms. And the kicker is at the beginning of Flanagan's demise, the beginning of the end, Jason Correa almost gave the acceptance speech of the victory for the election.
Okay, we're down to the end. I want to thank everybody out there for watching. I really appreciate it. Dan, thank you for calling in, making yourself available. And CJ, thank you once again for being here. We'll be back in 3 weeks with the panel, and hopefully Bob will feel better, and he'll be here too. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.